Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Wednesday, the 23rd of October. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning for the first time in a long time, I think, Jonny McFarlane. How's it going, Jonny?
Great, Derek. It's always lovely to be back on the morning briefing, even if it is a fleeting guest appearance. And seeing your happy mug staring back at me in the morning always gives me a spring of my step for the rest of the day, pal.
Jolly good, excellent. I know you were on with Joshua after Sunday's debacle at Rugby Park. It was fascinating to see your take on that one and what was a dreadful day down in Ayrshire. But yeah, we'll get your take on Rangers at this moment in time and how you think they'll fare ahead of tomorrow's Europa League clash against FCSB. Before we get stuck in, just a quick reminder, folks, many of you do tune into the morning briefing, and thank you to each and every one of you for doing just that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then please do so. We don't just have the morning briefing in the morning. We have a number of other videos as well. Today, of course, we'll have the press conference from the Rangers training centre, Philippe Clement, and whatever player Rangers put up for the press. We'll have the press conference reaction for those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members, and there's loads more videos in between. Chris and Stevie have got their Talking Point series that has been recently launched. Joshua and Adam have got tactics shows. There's plenty on the website, so make sure you subscribe so you never miss a thing. Hit that notification bell, folks, as well, and yeah, you can tune in whenever we go live. Right, Jonny, Rangers go into tomorrow's game, fair to say, not in the best of form. Philippe Clement is a man under pressure. Chris had a great piece on the website yesterday about what looks like he may have lost the dressing room, but losing the fans is something that is very hard for a Rangers manager to win back. And speaking to a number of Rangers supporters, he's losing a lot of faith, it's fair to say. I recorded a Q&A yesterday on the members channel. There was one or two that say that they believe that Clement can turn this around, but it's diminishing, you've got to say. And after Sunday's performance, you're scratching your head as to whether he is the man to turn things around. What have you made of the last few days?
Yeah, I've been taken aback myself, to be honest, by the level of unanimity in the Rangers support. Yep. Speaking to a few friends, listening to a couple of fan podcasts, seeing the reaction on these, I think there's a case to be made that Philippe Clement is really, really on a sticky wicket with the Rangers fans right now. And I think this is the culmination of some stuff that's Philippe Clement's fault and some stuff that's not. And the stuff that's his fault is, over the course of a year, we had a very good first half and we've had a very poor second half. And it's a bit of a head scratcher, Derek, because the man that was in charge up until that Motherwell defeat in whatever month it was, March or April of last season, seems like a totally different manager to the manager that Rangers have now. You know, he was decisive. The team were always looked in control, very confident in his press conferences, absolute control of what he had to say, really impressive. And since then, we've all seen the stats. I don't know, don't have them off the top of my head, Derek. Was it something like 9 and 18 or something like that? 9 wins.
Yeah, well, yeah, Josh had a great piece on Monday where the Kilmarnock game last season, a little under 8 months ago, I think it was, when Rangers came back to win, thanks to James Tavernier and Tom Lawrence, it was 18 league wins in 20 by then. Now it's 9 and 18, so 50% of matches he's won in the league.
So it's remarkable that there's this almost direct split after that Motherwell game, which seemed to expose the fault lines in the Rangers dressing room, the fault lines in their psychological frailties. And from there, we've seen a much weaker Philippe Clement's Rangers. And this has obviously culminated in what we saw in Rugby Park. Now, that the game's slow at Rugby Park on that pitch, that Kelly are well organised, that they have a threat on the break, that they've got tactical nous, none of that's a surprise. I think what was a surprise was that Rangers turned up, didn't go at them from the first minute. If I'm the Rangers manager, the very least that I'm going to expect from the team is that in the first 15 or 20 minutes, you pulverise Kelly to get that early goal, because that puts the pressure on them at that point.
Yep.
We didn't see that. Rangers were really, really, really poor in the final third. They failed in the basics in Scottish football. And Derek, I'm glad you're on, because sometimes when I'm on with Josh, I feel like that penetrating, handsome stare of his looking into my soul, saying, "You're an old bugger, you're an old bugger." But I know that you understand football in the same way as I do, because we're the same generation. And I really do believe in this notion that Walter Smith used to repeat time ad infinitum, which was, you first of all win the battle and then you play your football. I think that is Scottish football. It's Scottish football because of the refereeing. They're much more lenient than their European counterparts. It's Scottish football because of the weather. Sometimes it's just horrible here and you have to battle the environment. Yep. And it's Scottish football because it's pitches, Derek. There aren't always fantastic pitches to play on, as we see at Kilmarnock, as we've seen previously at Livingston and other grounds, as well as grounds that aren't not just plastic, but grass pitches that aren't the best. Again, probably coming on from the weather. And then there's a fourth point, which is that teams, when they're playing Rangers and Celtic, lift a gear because they know they're on telly, they know they've got an opportunity to impress a wide audience. Let's face it, Derek, if you're to go from the Rangers Review with 15,000 people on it to Match of the Day with 1 million people watching, you're going to raise your game, aren't you? You're going to bring your A game.
Sure. I don't know what you're getting at. Give me the Rangers Review over Match of the Day any day, I tell you that.
Well, if I give you Gary Lineker's salary, how are you feeling about it now?
Yeah. Well, that'd be nice. Yeah.
I'll take that. So, but the point is that everyone, when there's more scrutiny, you're going to raise your game, aren't you? You're going to make sure you've done everything to make sure you're looking at your best. So teams do that. This is nothing new. And I think Rangers just looked so ill-equipped for those challenges that it was very, very stark. It was like being a cold glass of water in the face that game, because Rangers just weren't equipped for any of those challenges. And I don't think Philippe Clement was convincing in the post-match. I think Joshua asked him an excellent question about, look, what's your message? What's the future?
Yeah.
What can we start to see? You have faith in this team. And I thought he fluffed that question. Now, it's easy to say in hindsight, Derek, that it's because it's now looking like it won't work out. But when Philippe Clement came in, I've talked about this before. I spent a lot of time with him. I thought this is the guy. This is the guy that Rangers need. He exuded an aura, big 6'3" guy, really good shape, very intelligent. He seemed like he ticked all the boxes. And certainly for that first 6 months, Derek, there's going to be a lot of tweets that come back if he doesn't make it at Rangers, because I think almost every journalist was saying this guy's really impressive. What we're seeing from him, it's going to give Brendan Rodgers a real challenge. But as I say, something happened. Something happened with that Motherwell game that rolled into that.
Oh, Johnny just froze there. Hopefully we can get him back. He's in full flow. So I think he has to plug in his laptop probably. But yeah, we'll carry on. Lots of comments coming in off the back of that game. And there we go. You're back, Johnny. You just he's froze again. The Wi-Fi not holding up the best, but we'll try and persevere, and hopefully we can get Johnny back. There we go.
Sorry, where did I get cut off in my prime?
Yeah. You were in full flow there, Johnny, but carry on. We lost you the last 10 seconds there.
No, I'm just saying that in that period where they lost the game to Ross County, they lost the game to Motherwell first, then Ross County, they drew with Dundee. Something happened in that period that made Philippe Clement go from a guy who I think saw a squad that needed gradual adjustment, clever tinkering, to a full-on burn it to the ground and rebuild it from the ground up. And listen, these things tend to take time. People will point to Jimmy Thielen at Aberdeen and what he's done, and they'll say, well, look, he's done it immediately.
Yep. They'll
look at Ange Postecoglou at Celtic and they'll say, Ange came in, it was pretty much as bad a situation as what Clement had at the start of the summer. He took six games where he looked a wee bit ropey. but there was signs there was green shoots for Celtic, and then we saw what happened after that. But I think on average, most of the time, these kind of root and branch rebuilds do take more than one transfer window. You need to give 2-3 transfer windows.
Yeah.
But alongside that, Derek, and this is the key point, there needs to be something. There needs to be some element that fans can look at and say, well, I see some movement forward. I can see what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us look at Philippe Clement's Rangers and just wonder, what is the philosophy here? What's happening? Is it too sophisticated and I'm not seeing it? Or is it just that he's trying to get big players to come up with big moments? And that puts a lot of pressure on the attacking players.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not a strategy to win the league. I think, should Philippe Clement not work out, Rangers need to look at a manager who has a pulverising strategy, who is an expert of being the manager of a big team, going up against smaller teams and defeating the low block. That's what Rangers need, because that's the game that they play 9 times out of 10. And I think the last few Rangers managers have been good managers in this sort of mid-block, pass the ball about, control the ball, control the game, European style. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is a very, very good manager. Rangers were lucky to have him. We saw that with what he did tactically in the run to the Europa League final. But he wasn't in the building long enough to, I think, work out tactically how to approach the Premier League. And if I had one major criticism of Rangers over the last few years, in retrospect, I'd say what should have happened is that period when Giovanni Van Bronckhorst went through a rocky period, the club should have said, we're going to let Giovanni Van Bronckhorst adopt a complete rebuild. And it would have been better giving him the money and giving him the opportunities that Michael Beale had, and the money that's been spent subsequently. You'd had a one philosophy, but I know at the time, it's easy to say that now. But I think most people would agree with that. He's the best manager that Rangers have had over this last period since Gerrard, and was probably as good a manager as you could have attracted to the club. And I think they should have backed him and not the players in that scenario, and looked to move quite a few of those guys that weren't engaged with the Van Bronckhorst methodology on, and given them the opportunity to just rebuild it. But listen, it's so easy to say in hindsight. I wouldn't have been saying that at the time. I would have been saying, get Gio out, and because it's untenable. I'm not quite there yet with Philippe Clement. I know the fans are, or a lot of the fans are. I don't think it's time to do that. I'll tell you why. There isn't anyone to make that call. It's the club needs to reorganise itself. It's just going from one crisis to another if they sack the manager. So what you have to do, and what I hope Rangers will do over the next 2 weeks, and if anyone listens to this or gives a hell what I say, my advice would be find a CEO, find a really good CEO, and get that guy in and allow that guy to rebuild. One thing I would say is, if you get the CEO appointment right, this is a dream scenario for a CEO. A dream scenario.
Well, is it?
Yeah, because you've got
a guy from St Mirren didn't fancy it. So, what makes you think that someone's going to fancy it?
The level of finance that's going to go into that job, in terms of this. Now, the guy in St Mirren, listen, we don't have time to go into the detail of all that, we don't fully know exactly what happened there. But what I would say is, if you're a CEO going into that club, you have zero expectations. You have a very demanding supporter that understands there's going to have to be a period of readjustment and rebuilding. And so you're going to get a bit more leeway than you would if you were going for the title. And you can appoint pretty much all your own people throughout the club, because the club is so lacking in guys that are in positions at the moment. If you look at director of football operations, head of the academy, the CEO, I would imagine, would have some level of input into the chairman, because those two will have to work together. So, and then that CEO will then assess the manager situation as well. And, that CEO won't be held accountable for any failures of the current management team.
Yeah.
So I think it's a blank page. You don't have to worry about getting rid of people. Like these, you get your own people in from the start, and you've got an opportunity to build this club in your own image. Now, as you say, Derek, there's downsides to that, the lack of stability and all that, but I think that get that right and everything else should follow. It's absolutely massive, and I would urge Rangers to front load whatever money they have to make sure that the best possible candidate for that job is brought in.
Yeah, they need to get it right, and they need to get it in someone in that position as soon as possible. I know when John Gilligan gave his interview to Sky, he says the hope is to get someone in before Christmas. I really hope that we get someone in well before then, but if that is the likely timescale, of course, someone might be in a job at this moment in time and have to serve a notice period. Are we in this sort of state of limbo then, Johnny? If he stumbles, I mean, we've got Rangers got a big game tomorrow, big game on Sunday against St Mirren, which is by no means a gimme. And then everyone's looking to head to that game a week today up at Pittodrie, and Rangers potentially could go 9 points behind Aberdeen. Rangers manager can't survive that, can he?
Well, it would be very, very difficult to, Derek. But again, I come back to if that was to happen, and we're dealing in hypotheticals here, who makes the call that he can't survive it? There's no one to do that at the moment. So I think we just have to take it one game at a time, to use the old cliche, and assess it on that individualised basis. What I would say is, you look at the fixtures, they're not kind, Derek. They are not kind at the moment. Everywhere you look, there's banana skins. And then the one that really, really you look at and you think, that is a nasty one, is Spurs. Because when they play...
I don't even want to think about that, to be honest.
They are liquid football. And for them to come to Ibrox with a former Celtic manager who will be wanting to put on a show, that could be a really, really tough night. And this is the other thing about getting rid of Clement, Derek. Do we really think that promoting Alex Rae to manager is going to improve things?
No.
Is that the answer? Is there someone outstanding in the academy? Are you going to put David McCallum back up?
No.
What's the solution here? What Rangers can't do, if they do decide to change a manager, is appoint a full-time manager. You can't get back to this situation of you appoint a full-time manager with another manager's squad, with loads of problems inherited for the other manager, and then by the end of the season, they're tainted by what's happened with that other manager's duff squad. So whoever comes in, if Clement is not to work out, it would have to be someone that was coming in for a short period just to take the reins. But I think Philippe Clement should be given the time, because of the situation, for the next couple of games at least, to see how he does. And I think, as you say, the Aberdeen game is crucial, absolutely crucial. If he wins that, I think things will be a lot more positive. But it's on him. He's got to persuade everyone. He's got to change the narrative. He's got to change the mindset. It's not us driving the way the fans are thinking, Derek. The fans are driving what we're saying, and we're here responding to what they're saying. And anyone can go on social media and see it. It's not there's no agendas here against Philippe Clement. I think Philippe Clement's a great guy. I've had a lot of dealings with Philippe Clement at press conferences, and he's courteous and respectful and friendly, and always answers a question and gives you good answers. So there's nothing personal against Philippe Clement, but the fans are upset, the fans are angry, the fans are in ferment. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's all right being a nice guy. He has to win football matches.
Absolutely.
That's the big thing.
And he knows that.
What's that?
He knows that. He's been at big clubs.
Yeah. Your liquid football references caused Graham Duncan to say partridge quote from Johnny. More partridge quotes would be much welcome. But
accidental partridge.
Yeah. Let's talk about the game last night. I mean, the Rangers B team defeated Stenhousemuir by 4-1 in the SPFL Trust Trophy, and they've now progressed to the quarter-final, where they will play Queen's Park. That match scheduled to take place, I think, on the 12th of November. A double from Finlay Curtis and a goal from Danilo, and one from Yanis Hadji as well. Rangers very strong looking at B team last night. Zach Lovelace also started, as did Bailey Rice. Leon King was a captain. Clinton Enciala in there as well. Incidentally, Lovelace removed at half-time. Philippe Clement was in attendance alongside the Rangers first-team coaching staff. He was removed at half-time because with an eye on potentially featuring for the first team in the upcoming games, which is interesting. I think he played over on the left-hand side last night. Rangers, you touched on there, Jonny, the forward line, and it's misfiring, not scoring anywhere near enough goals. Could Lovelace be an option, an answer? And Danilo obviously coming back. I'm not saying he is going to be the answer after scoring against Stenhousemuir for the B team, but good to see him back on the pitch.
Well, Danilo's huge, Derek. First of all, Danilo is a £6 million striker. And for Rangers, that kind of money is just enormous. It's enormous. And to have splashed that money out and had virtually no return for a year and a half is mind-boggling. I mean, that was a transfer, Derek, that had to work. And, you know, he's been so unlucky. The injuries he's had have been, by all accounts, you know, extremely unlucky collision-based injuries. Certainly, you look at the one where he was smashed in the face at St Johnstone. I think the latest one that he had was on tackle that just went wrong. It's a scenario whereby you look at it and you think, if you can get Danilo, the guy that they signed, you know, the guy that they looked at and thought, like, he's a difference maker, then what a difference it would make to this Rangers team. Cyril Dessers, you know, we've talked about in detail. To have someone up there who can challenge him and potentially take his place and be a star for Rangers could make a huge difference. But the truth is, we don't know how good Danilo is. You know, Danilo could work out to be another one that isn't suited to Scottish football. He is small. He's not a physically imposing guy, so he has to make it work with his quality. So he has to be good. And we're yet to see how good he can be. But let's hope that he gets back with a run of form and a run of games and he can show why Michael Beale splashed out that money from. In terms of Lovelace, Derek, that seems clear to me that they fancy bringing him in. So I would expect to see him in the squad for this game. I would expect to see him introduced. And I've always liked what I've seen when I've seen Zach Lovelace play. So I bring it on, I say, you have to change. This Rangers team has to change. And do you know one way you can win the fans back that's not by winning? It's by performing better and showing that things are changing. I think there is a level of understanding in this Rangers support. The Rangers support are not stupid. I think there's a level of understanding that this isn't going to be the year that you win titles. But there needs to be a clear, tangible sign that the club is moving forward, that they're putting these last 2 years behind them, and that there is a momentum towards something better. And you can't do that by playing this really, really boring to watch 4-2-3-1 that Scottish managers just lap up playing against, because they know sit in a low block, tighten up the back four or the back five, show them down the sides. I mean, Derek, I could tactically set up to counter that. That's how ridiculous it is in terms of how ineffective it has now become. You're just relying on magic moments from individuals, like a Czerny moment against St Johnstone, or a Lawrence finish against was it Motherwell when he put it in the top bin?
Was it Hibs?
Against Hibs. So I think it's time to see a change, and if Zach Lovelace can provide a bit of electricity, fantastic. That's what they need.
Has to change it. Sloop says he's in the Euro squad. He is in the European squad, buddy. So, whether he features tomorrow, who knows. Tam Brown as well says 3 assists from NCO with zero creativity in the team. Tav nowhere and Cantwell's gone. So, another one who should be knocking on the door. In terms of the team tomorrow, we'll get an update Jonny from the manager a little later on, but who is available for that one. Robin Propper, there'll be question marks over him. I'd be dropping him anyway and bringing Leon Balogun into the back line. If I was in Clement's shoes, I'd be changing to a back three, going a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-1-1, if you like, with Bayrami behind a striker, whether that's Cyril Dessers or one other, with maybe have Tav and Jefty on both flanks, Casemiro at the back to form a back three. Who's coming in to the team tomorrow, do you reckon? And can you foresee a formation change?
Well, I think the obvious one is, it sounds like Propper's not going to make it, so you would imagine that Leon Balogun will step up. I liked what he had to say after the game against Kilmarnock. Leon Balogun is the right sort of character you would want at a club, and despite being no spring chicken, I think it's still a good player and will do absolutely fine. As to whether we'll see the manager change it, that's going to be really, really interesting to see. And I think, as I've said already, that's going to be a key part of, I think, the reaction of the fans towards him. I agree with you, Derek. I think this Rangers team is set up for a back five, and there's enough players there that are adaptable in terms of being a 10 or an 8, that I think, especially in Scottish football, if you were sort of to play a 3-1, a sort of 5-1-2-2, almost, so you've got two midfield players that are allowed to bomb on, then someone like Hadji is a more natural 10, or Barami can play in those roles, potentially, give you that attacking threat. But I'd just like to see him show that there are options, that there's other things he can do with this squad. And you look at the back line, Tav surely would be better in a 5 now. Hefty is a guy that looks made for a wing-back role.
Yeah.
Casemiro, that's a natural, the right side of a back three, perfect for him, isn't it? So John Souttar in the middle, okay, Balogun on the left side isn't perfect. You'd kind of ideally want a left-footed person there. But to me, that's an option that he should think about. I think he needs to think about giving Dessers a partner up front. Try Igman and Dessers up front together and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Other than that, Derek, there's if he stays with the same formation, then again, I think you'll be looking at a game whereby Rangers will be looking for a moment, a big moment.
Yeah. And
I'll be up to the creative players to deliver that. The one thing again about Rangers though in the Europa League, Derek, I will not be surprised at all. In fact, I fancy Rangers to win tomorrow. The Europa League is a different kettle of fish. You've got the opposite team will come onto you. They'll try and score. They'll try and flood men forward, and it'll give Rangers space to attack into. But again, this comes down to the point that I made about philosophy. Rangers have had managers that have had a philosophy that's really good for Europe. And that's why they've performed in the Europa League time and time again across the different managers. Clement's had some very good results in the Europa League. You look at Betis. You look already this season in Malmo, which was nobody was expecting that. Great performance, great result. It's because fundamentally the core idea about this Rangers team has always been this kind of mid-block, kind of like counter-attacking.
Europe, not Scottish football.
It's exactly, and that's to me that's the core problem and has been for a while. Walter Smith had this exact problem in the 9 in a row years, Derek. They ground out Scottish football week in, week out, which is why they won so many titles in a row. No problem at all. Okay, 8 and 9, there was a big challenge from Celtic. But they went into Europe and they tried to apply that same style, and they were getting beaten by teams like Strasbourg, you'll remember, and Gothenburg. Teams that were nowhere near on paper as good as Rangers. And it was, they had the philosophy.
Yeah, he learned in his second stint, didn't he? He learned in his second stint, certainly. He did. Walter, that's for sure. Kay bringing up, Derek, 3-4-1-1, you're playing with 10 men. Math's not my strong point. 3-4-1-2 is what I would go for, by Rami behind it, a front two. But whether we see that I'm not entirely sure, but we'll wrap up there. Big thanks to Jonny, as ever, for joining us on the show. And thank you to you all for tuning in also. It's very much appreciated. Just a reminder, if you are an avid watcher of the YouTube channel here at the Rangers Review, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so.
It's free. It's free.
It's free, as Jonny says. Yeah, absolutely. So, press conference day, we will be back with you this afternoon. Chris will be attending at the Rangers Training Centre for us, so we'll have all the news from that. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.